So, what is a Banshee? Well, basically a Banshee is a creepy, spooky ghost lady who is really into Sight Lord and will happily recite her favorite songs right at you. Usually in the middle of the night and in places straight out of a low-tier indie horror title. The Banshee, or this, which is actually just pronounced as Banshee, so I fooled you there, finds her origins in Irish myth, where she is said to appear and wail at you if a family member or someone else you're close with is about to come down with a nasty case of death, with the exact nature of the wailing kinda varying from place to place, with some describing it as a pleasant and comforting tune, and others describing it as a sound akin to stepping on the tail of a cat with a kazoo stuck in its throat. However, this screeching actually has a real-life origin in the form of keening, which is a very old Irish tradition that involves hiring women to wail and sing at someone's funeral. These songs were often disjointed and completely made up on the spot, but were still a pretty big part of Irish culture for a good while. So it's not that weird that they inevitably got a little bit of that supernatural je ne sais quoi. But while banshees are mostly known these days as hostile and dangerous, it need be said that they weren't really at all in the original myth. They were more like messengers or predictors of death, rather than a spooky female doom guy. At least they are most of the time. Cause you see, banshees are usually described as having long, wavy hair straight out of a L'Oréal Paris commercial. And as everyone with long hair can tell you, it doesn't just get like that by itself. And banshees don't let something like being incorporeal get in the way of a proper hair care routine. And so they are often seen combing their hair with silver combs. Silver combs that they occasionally tend to displace if they get urgently called up to go and cry in someone's backyard. In the scenario where you find one of these combs lying about, you should avoid it at all costs. Since if you were to steal it, the banshee will inevitably come back to retrieve it, and also maybe a little bit more, if you catch my drift. And that's basically all there is on banshees. But since this was pretty short, how about we all go and take a look at a modern depiction of a banshee and how the original myth compares. And for that, let's take a peek at D&D, because I happen to have quite a few books on hand and not much else to use them for, so we might as well. So in D&D, banshees are actually the lingering souls of elves, who were incredibly damn pretty in life, but, and I quote, failed to use their gift to bring joy to the world, instead using it to control and corrupt others. Which is definitely interesting. I don't know exactly how they were supposed to use their incredible gift of favorable genes for good, but clearly the gods do, because these beautiful bastards get a lovely divine curse shoved down their gob and are forced to haunt the place of their death-ish forever and ever. Which I don't think helps anyone with the whole using their good looks for greatness thing, but I'm not some divine jackass with an ego the size of Cronus's left testicle, so what do I know? Oh, and this also apparently gives them the ability to immediately detect any life in a 5-mile radius, as well as doing a death metal scream once a day, which basically just insta-claps anyone nearby who can hear it. So it's safe to say that outside of being a bit screamy, there really isn't a lot of the original myth that carries over here. Instead of warning people about their demise, D&D banshees have quite a unique and proactive approach to that by killing them. Which is fine, since it's a game that revolves around a lot of combat, but if I were to ever be in charge of putting one into a campaign, there are a few small changes I'd put in that'd make them just that little bit more interesting. For starters, I'd change them from a chaotic evil undead to a neutral-ish fae, since banshees aren't actually the souls of the deceased, but rather just weird magic things that show up every now and then. I'd be fine with keeping the battle stats in case it ever were to come down to it, but I'd make banshees more of an NPC or a weird phenomenon that just sort of occurred every now and then. Maybe they could, if persuaded, give some information on the recently deceased, or be heard wailing late at night if some wizard got sneezed on one too many times and is already down a few death saves. Or they could even be your world's equivalent of a Grim Reaper-like figure, guiding the souls of the dead to the other side and soothing them with their songs. And if you do want to make them a hostile beastie for a young party to deal with, maybe you could lean into that whole silver comb thing I talked about earlier. What if some farmer or peasant accidentally picked one up while on his stroll, and now your party needs to defend them against a very angry Banshee who really wants her stuff back. Would you try to negotiate? Maybe the farmer has already sold the comb off to somewhere and you need to track it down before things get even uglier. Or maybe you'll just Eldritch Bop the phantasmal prick until the end credits roll. Either way, I'd definitely give them a lot more flavor than just being angry elf ghosts who were too pretty. Which is kind of the beauty of these types of games, because you can get as wild with it and change as many things as your heart desires. In the exact same way, I changed this video from talking about Irish myth to me speculating about homebrew. You're welcome. Alright, so that's the video. If you liked it, remember to like, subscribe, engrave it on your tombstone, and if there's anything else you'd like me to cover next, let me know in the comments. Bye bye!